Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni mili wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show. Tell your kids' teachers, their principal, their librarian, and also please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, wherever you find your podcast. This episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Skipper, Friend or Foe, a distracting mystery within life's traumatic events. Written by Kelly Sanchez, it is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. As an educator and a mother, author Kelly Sanchez put her 20 years of experience working with kids into writing Skipper, Friend or Foe. This is a powerful coming-of-age middle-grade novel that you and your kids will absolutely love. It's going to launch some really important conversations within your family, and it's going to help kids who are going through tough times, letting them know that their feelings, whatever they are normal. You can get your copy today at Amazon. Skipper, Friend or Foe, a distracting mystery within life's traumatic events, written by Kelly Sanchez. It is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. This episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Lucas and the Game of Chance, a thrilling middle grade novel written by Anthony L. Mena. It is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. While Lucas is playing his flute at the seawall one day, he befriends a mysterious talking dancing snake that rewards him with fortune and favor. Some years later, tempted by greed and pride, Lucas loses all of his riches and his family. He now must set off on a treacherous journey through a frightening forest filled with suspense and strange creatures. To find Destiny, her son, Ilion, the sun, her daughter, Luna, the moon. These celestial guardians will surely allow him to reverse his misfortune, restore his honor, and win back all that he loves and treasures. Won't they? This is a reimagined Greek folk tale. Lucas and the Game of Chance is illuminated with dramatic and evocative pen and ink drawings that provide an ideal backdrop to the dark intrigue that fills this haunting story of human struggle, courage, and resilience. You and your kids are going to love it. Lucas and the Game of Chance by Anthony L. Mena. It is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Join us right now from the beautiful city of Montreal in Quebec, Canada. Our guest is here today to celebrate. Her brand new picture book is called Just One Pebble, One Boy's Quest to End Hunger. Please welcome to the show, Dianna Wilson-Sirkowski. Dianna, how are you?
I'm great, Jed, and thank you so much for having me. I'm really pleased to be here.
You know, I'm excited to talk to you about this book. I think it's a unique subject for a picture book, but I think it's a pretty important one. This picture book tells the story of a real life little kid who's done some amazing things.
Indeed. Yeah, he's an inspiring boy. He's older now. He's almost 20, but he started this when he was around 9 years old, 8 or 9 years old. And that's where I wrote him in the book. I started at the beginning of his journey at that age.
So tell us a little bit about this exceptional young man.
Okay, well, his name is Braden Mannering. He lives in Delaware. And when he was 8 years old, he won the healthy lunch contest at his elementary school. And apparently it was a countrywide thing, and every state had a winner. And as the Delaware winner, he was invited to a luncheon at the White House with Michelle Obama who had sponsored, we all knew that she was really concerned with healthy eating in schools for kids and stuff. And so she sponsored this. So Braden was invited to the White House with the other winners of the states and met Mrs. Obama. And she challenged the kids to take this positive experience home with them and to pay it forward in some meaningful way. So, Braden went home, and he was 8 years old, didn't really know what to do. But one day he and his mom were driving, and he saw a homeless man sitting on the sidewalk, and it was raining. And he knew that this man had nowhere to go, and it just really made an impact on him. And he thought about it all the way home. And when he got home, he went in the kitchen and he packed a bag with some snacks and a bottle of water and an umbrella. And he asked his mom if she would take him back so that he could give it to the man. So she did. And that was the beginning. And I think he was a little bit hesitant at the beginning, not quite sure how it would be received by the people, that he was trying to help. But it was just such an amazingly positive, the reaction was just, people were so thankful and so grateful. And so that was the beginning of his nonprofit, which was called Bray's Brown Bags, and they called it 3B for short.
So cool. I love that story, and what a great example for our kids.
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, I think the message that I got from it, and I'm hoping that children who read the story will get, is that, kindness is a choice, and it's easy. And, we can all do some little thing that can make a difference. It doesn't have to be some grandiose gesture that involves a lot of money or something that, of course, children generally don't have at their disposal. But it's easy to hold a door open for somebody that needs help, to read to someone who's elderly and losing their eyesight, a family member or a neighbor or a friend. And there's just so many easy ways that kids can make a difference in the world. And I mean, I think as parents, we're all trying to raise socially responsible children. And I think that I'm hoping that this book will feed into that.
I do too. As you were talking about Braden seeing that homeless man when he was 8 years old, I'm thinking back to when I was 8 years old and how I would have reacted, and it would have been very different. I mean, I'm almost 100 years old right now, and the way we looked at people who were living on the streets, it was mostly men. We didn't look kindly on, the thought was, we use the word bum. He's a bum. And probably drugs, probably alcohol. And we just looked and said, oh, well, that's that person. They made some choices in their lives, and that's how they ended up there. And certainly many people who are homeless are there because of issues with drugs or alcohol, but many aren't. And many are homeless, especially nowadays in cities like Montreal and Toronto and Vancouver and Boston and New York.
It's a big problem.
Because the price of housing is obscene. It's just ridiculous. And I'm really, really thankful that nowadays kids, when they're looking at people who don't have homes, who have less, have very different attitudes. They're more likely to be like Braden, to think this person needs some help. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a small town in Manitoba where homelessness didn't exist. Mm-hmm. I only became aware of it as an adult when I was older and moved, into larger cities. And I think it's certainly, as you say, it's much more part of our whole societal experience these days. And our children are growing up with it, knowing what it is and knowing that it's a big social problem. And I think that, if we can raise children who are aware of it
and are, willing to help to do something to combat it, that hopefully this will bode well for the future.
I'm hoping so too. I'm hoping that we're raising a generation of kids who aren't just. I don't mean to say just. I'm hoping we raise a generation of kids who want to help out immediately to get the umbrellas and the brown bag lunches and meals to these folks. But I'm also hoping we're raising a generation that's going to address the issue of it takes here in Boston, the newspaper did an article that I was floored that said that a person who wanted to live in a one-bedroom home in Boston had to make $180,000 a year to be able to afford that. I think the numbers might be, but I'm like, that's crazy. That's crazy, and that's a bigger issue, and that's an issue that needs to be really tackled, because if we don't get that under control, then we're going to have more and more people needing the brown bags.
Sure. Yeah, it'll be a growing problem, sadly.
Yeah. So how did a woman born in Manitoba living in Montreal end up writing about a kid from Delaware?
Well, I always visited this site, the Greater Good site, where you can do daily clicks to help raise money for all sorts of good, worthy projects, feeding people and taking care of animals and all different things that are dear to my heart. And I came across that they had a small article about Braden on the hunger site. And I read it and I thought, what a fabulous story. I mean, it's got everything. It's kid friendly. It's kid centered. It's, socially prominent, something that we're all familiar with and dealing with. And it was just the kindness and the dearness of this little boy doing this that just reached out and just grabbed me. And I thought, I have to write about this. I have to. And, it was so easy to research because there's lots of information on him on the internet. He had a Facebook page, which was really great because I could read his posts and learn his voice. Mm. So it was like he was speaking. So I could get the feel of him as this child from his writing. And then, of course, there was lots of articles. He was on TV. He'd been invited to the Rockefeller tree lighting. There was lots of wonderful articles that had been written about what he was doing. And he was even invited back to President Obama's second inauguration.
Wonderful. That's really
so
wonderful.
I guess, I assumed from that he had forged a relationship with Mrs. Obama during their meetings. And there's a very lovely picture of her and him hugging. And I thought it was just delightful. And it's not only that, it's that he made such an effort and his work has spread. I mean, up until I think before COVID, he had given out 15,000 bags.
Wow.
And the 3B program they call it 3B Ripples, as a takeoff on the title. But and what that means is that the program had spread. It had rippled outward and spread to other schools, to church groups, to other groups of kids like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and kids that would gather in group environments that would then take this upon themselves. So the program really spread beyond Braden and beyond his school.
I'm listening to the story and I'm smiling and I'm thinking, wow, this would be so much fun to read with my kids. My kids are all older now, but when they were younger, and to inspire them. But I'm imagining there might be some kids out there thinking, oh, I could never do something that would earn me a visit to the White House and would I just don't have that. I'm just a little guy. What would you say to that young person?
I would say that's absolutely okay. You know, most of us are never going to get to the White House. Let's be real. You know, but it's like, I said before, I said, you know, kindness is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an easy choice. You know, it's easy to be kind. It's easy to be nice. And it doesn't have to be some amazing thing. You can, you know, help somebody across the street who's walking with a cane. If they look like they need help, you can carry a bag for them. You can open a door for them. My own dear mom is virtually blind now and really loves to have people read to her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can visit your next door neighbor who might be old and alone and lonely. You know, you can bake cookies. There's just an endless number of things that can be done, and they're all easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I think that's the great thing about it.
Yeah. You know, that idea of just simply holding the door open for somebody is such a simple act,
Mm-hmm.
but it really is. It can mean a ton to somebody. Imagine somebody who's had the worst day of all. You know, they might have lost their job, they lost a loved one, whatever, had a big argument, and they have a bazillion things to do, and they need to run out to the grocery store or whatever, and that's the last thing they want to do, and somebody takes the time to hold the door open for them. That small gesture could be the thing that picks them back up.
Absolutely. Just a smile. Sometimes a smile just makes a difference. I wonder if I could just take a minute here and just read very quickly what Braden wrote at the back of the book.
Absolutely.
He says, there's always something we can do to help others around us. We can give people a healthy snack, pick up litter off the ground, read to someone at a senior center, hold the door open for someone, and smile. These are simple ideas for everyday acts of kindness. You never know how a simple act can change the course of someone's day. Maybe your smile will make them smile. Maybe your generosity will encourage them to share. It's my dream to help end hunger. What's your dream? Dream, and then dream bigger.
There you go.
He says it all.
I love that. Absolutely.
Yeah, that says it all right there.
Tell me, did you have a chance to sit down and talk to Braden?
We have met online, but we have never met in person.
And what's your sense? You know, we talk about these people who are great role models for us, but many of us don't get a chance to meet these people, whether online or in person. What was it like to meet him?
He's a lovely young man, and he's an extraordinarily kind and an ordinary young man. You know, I mean, I don't want other children to think I can never aspire to something like this because he's someone extraordinary. And I think I can speak for Braden to say that he wouldn't want that either. He looks at himself, I'm sure, as just, I'm an ordinary guy who just saw something that needed to be done and I was able to help.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's what he's trying to encourage kids to do. You don't have to be someone amazing or someone extraordinary. You don't have to have a superpower. You just need to be kind and want to help.
Yeah. You know, I just love this story, and I think it's a great way to sit down and talk to our kids. Not only, and I think one of the things that as parents we could do, especially as we're reading Just One Pebble, One Boy's Quest to End Hunger, is absolutely the natural instinct is to read this book and then turn to our kids and say, you can do the same thing. But I think something that might be almost more powerful would be to sit down and, as we're reading this, turn to your kids and say, you know what? I remember a couple of weeks ago you did this, and that was amazing. You chose to be kind to so-and-so, and that was incredible, and I'm so proud of you. And I really think that would be something that would be really inspiring to our kids. Instead of challenging them is great, but but if we can just recognize what they're already doing, and I think that's something that's going to really light the fire and make them want to get out there and know that, I'm already doing this.
I'm already doing it. Yeah, it's the encouragement that they need, the recognition, that they're already a kind person.
Yeah. So are you always drawn to, you mentioned visiting intentionally visiting this site to see how you can help others and to see what others are doing. Is this just something that you love to write about folks who are making a difference in the world?
When I started as a writer, I just assumed I would always write fiction, because I've always loved picture books and that sort of thing. And it seems that I found myself drawn to these stories. My first book was also taken from a true story. I did fictionalize it. I didn't use the real boy's name. And I didn't speak to the family or anything like that. But with this story, it was so specific that, of course, I knew I wanted to write it as a true story with Braden's name. And once I had written the story, I reached out to his mom. But yes, I do find I've written other stories about things that kids do. And so, I've discovered, much to my surprise, that this seems to be my niche where I'm the most comfortable writing.
That's very, very cool. Hey, you mentioned earlier that Braden got to visit Michelle Obama and President Obama. And one of the things that seems unfair is that folks in Canada know all about our politics. Folks in Australia know all about the politics of the United States, and people all over the world can tell you who our president is. But there are not a lot of people who would be able to tell you that Justin Trudeau is the premier of Canada. How does that feel? I'm just curious. How does that make you feel as a Canadian? Is there? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but this is just a thought that occurred to me. Everybody knows almost everything about the United States, and unfortunately, too many of us here in the United States don't know anything about anywhere else.
Well, I do believe that's true, but I feel that there's people in every country who are interested in what's happening in the world and inform themselves. And I've always been a student of history myself. It's really the genre that I read the most, probably. So I'm aware of a lot about the United States from the very inception of the United States. I'm familiar with it. And Canada and European countries as well. And, I just think I think that as well-rounded citizens of the world, we need to inform ourselves and hopefully raise our children to be global citizens.
Yeah. I think it's really neat. A great way to do that is just simply, instead of trying to do civics lessons, just is if we're watching a TV show that takes place in Canada or the UK or China, just talk about, what kind of government they might have, who's their leader.
Yeah, exactly.
And what else? What else can we learn about this country? What do they like to eat? I think kids here in America who love eating tons and tons of French fries might be very interested in the way that you folks eat French fries up in Canada.
Oh yes, with gravy and cheese.
So
we like them plain too.
But I just think I think we have a wonderful opportunity because of the media that we have access to. We have this wonderful opportunity to talk with our kids about the fact that we live in this big, beautiful world that is wonderful and it's diverse. But in the bottom, at the end, we're all part of this one beautiful human family. And I think the more we know about each other, the more we can appreciate that kinship that we should all celebrate.
education is the key to everything.
Yeah.
It really is. It's, knowledge, education, knowledge, acceptance, you know.
Absolutely. Well, Dianna, you should educate us and let us know where we can go to find out more about Just One Pebble and find out more about you.
Well, the book is for sale in many places, Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and all of your bigger stores in the States and through Canada. In the back of the book, I have a list of, actually, they have put a list here, not a list actually, it's just Braden's website where you can go to learn more about 3B. But for any kids who are really interested to learn about Braden, all they have to do is Google, braised brown bags or Braden Mannering, and there'll be all kinds of amazing articles that will come up that they can read through. And they'll learn a lot about this boy, who's very, very interesting. Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's a lovely boy.
And we really encourage folks to support their local independent bookshops. So you can walk in there and say, hey, do you folks have Just One Pebble? And if they say, well, yeah, out in the back, we got a bunch of rocks and stuff. No. Just One Pebble, One Boy's Quest to End Hunger. If they don't have it, I'm sure that they will be very kind and order it for you, and it'll be there.
Oh, yes. I hope that people will go to their indie bookstores and to their libraries and request that the libraries bring in some copies too. And we definitely want to support our little indie bookshops because there aren't nearly enough of them.
Absolutely. And I think this would be a really fantastic addition to any school or classroom library.
I hope so. I really hope so, because I think this is a story that, librarians can read to classes, that teachers can read to their kids. And I'm really hoping that that's the way things will go for this story.
Wonderful. We've had a great time speaking to the author of Just One Pebble, One Boy's Quest to End Hunger. Our guest has been Dianna Wilson-Sirkowski. Thanks so much for being with us, Dianna.
Thank you, Jed. It was wonderful. And if I have just 1 second, I'd love to give a shout out to my illustrator, Sarah Casilda. She's brilliant. She's brought the magic that brings the stories to life. She's illustrated both my books, and she lives in Spain.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much to her.
Yes.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast, and will join us for the next exciting episode. If you want to make sure you don't miss a second of the show, please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Stitch Radio, wherever you get your podcasts. And also be sure to visit readingwithyourkids.com and download your copy of the Reading With Your Kids online magazine. It's free. It's available at readingwithyourkids.com. Just click on our blog. Before you go, I want to make sure that I give a big thank you to my team: Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Madison Dairies, Soji Franklin, Monica Rivera Sosa, Ann O'Leary. I want to give a big thank you to my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me, and most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.